Thank you.
No problem. So in the morning, I brought the computer up. I didn't plug it in last night. Normally I leave it plugged in. So I brought it up, I set everything up, turned on the Zoom, ready to go, and plug it in, walk away, and the screen goes black. I'm like, why? I just plugged you in. Why don't you want to work for me?
It knows.
Yeah, the
It's
technology.
always my first thought when like my phone will just randomly turn off when I'm in the middle of a like super high frequency conversation, like poking holes through the matrix. I'll just turn it off. I'm like, oh yes, I was warned about this actually. I was warned about empaths and technology, that sometimes it just like has like sometimes our energy is too much for technology.
Yeah, and it's like, I had too much of you for a minute.
Yeah.
Let's take a pause.
Yeah, like power down.
Yeah, or we can talk about conspiracies. I mean, somebody's listening and says, that's enough for her.
Yeah, they're cut off.
Yeah, let her lose her train of thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's part of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
This dog is like trying to get to me real as close as she can. She's like right there with her puppy eyes. And now she's going around. She's like, no, I don't want you to see my eyes. Now she's stretching in the bed.
She's like, I just heard you talk about like people stealing your thoughts. Don't put me on camera.
Yeah, don't take my thoughts. They come from my eyes.
Yeah. All right. I got my cacao.
Oh, I had one sip. I'm like, nope, not enough. I was about to put it down.
Set an intention. I'll hit record. All right. So I think my intention for this session is, again, as always, to have fun. And I also am welcoming the cacao spirit into my body to partner with me, to open my heart, drop me into my heart, and cultivate just free flowing stream of consciousness that is in service to ourselves and the highest good for all.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any intentions you want to set?
For me, when you said have fun, that's like what I live on. So my intention is also to have fun and to bring whatever comes out of my mouth to everyone, really.
Yeah.
There's always something in there for people that we share, that we talk about, that means a lot. And then when you also said have fun, I just saw that my cat's head, you see his head, right? And I go like this. My husband will attest to me not being able to be serious. It's one of my quirks, I guess, or qualities or skills. Every time we work out, I always like, and I've said this many times, I have to like poke him or laugh, or he's doing something. Let's say he's doing like a bridge, and I am like, oh, perfect time to go sit on him. He's like, oh my God, this is why I can't, this is why it always takes forever to have the workouts done when you're a part of it. Because when you're not there, I get it done so quickly. But when you're there, I always have to have fun and laugh. I can't be serious. I'm like, no, I can't. And you know that.
I love that. That's one of my that's one of my favorite things about you. Like you remind me to not like even in just the silliest ways, like when we talk about poop and just like stuff that'll get me to laugh every time. Like I love, that's like what, that's one of your gifts. It's grounding,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Talking about poop, our son pooped this week, and he goes, "Mommy, Daddy, Mila, come look at my poop! Come!" So I'm like, okay, let's go see this poop. So I'm going, and then James is sitting on the couch. He goes, "Now show you flush," and Ethan's like, "No, Daddy, you come too. I want you to see it too." So we go down, we go to the bathroom and look at his poop. I'm like, "Very nice, Ethan. Good job." Sometimes it has like an interesting color to it, or an interesting shape to it, or sticking out of the water, or it gets stuck in the bowl, and it's like. And when is the perfect time to talk about poop?
That's impressive for a little dude that it gets stuck in the bowl.
Yeah, he might be little, but he's mighty. And today I was doing a post, and as I'm writing this post, I realized, and this is the beauty of writing, right? Like journaling, writing, whether you're doing a post, it's in a way, it's a journal, right? Or you are journaling. Well, as you're writing, as I'm writing, things come to mind. And what I realized, and I added into that post without saying that I just realized it, that my son, just like me, has a gift of gab, which means that when he starts speaking, he will speak, and he can do it for a really long time. So, like today, example, I was trying to meditate in the living room, just in front of a fireplace, a few minutes that I had with nobody downstairs, and I hear the footsteps coming down. I'm like, oh, somebody's gonna come and disturb me, the hijackers. And then he comes into the living room. He kind of like looks over to see if my eyes are open. And my eyes were closed, and then they open. He goes, "Oh, mommy, are you meditating?" Yes. Okay, so he sits down beside me and starts talking. Like, okay, I guess we are done meditating. Now it's Ethan's time. And it's so cute. He just sits there and I'm like, okay, let's take pictures. And we're taking a few pictures. And I asked him, like, take a picture of me, right? So him being like a spitting image of me, because he can't do things seriously. And I can see why James can get frustrated. I like, take a picture of me. What does he do? He zooms all the way in from standing from 2 feet away from me. Zooms all the way in where you can see just a little my face like this. And takes a picture of me. I'm like, just one picture. One nice picture. That's it. And then when he's in pictures, he's always smiling.
That's so nice that he has you to like hold space for his expression, and he feels like that comfortable to just sit with you and talk.
Mm-hmm. But see, sometimes, and I know many mothers will agree with me that sometimes it gets on my nerves.
Oh, absolutely.
And I do my best not to lose it and not to snap. But sometimes it's very difficult. And then after the fact, I'm like, oh, why? And I work through what happened because it's not about him. Yeah. It's never about him. They're our teachers. So what lesson is he trying to teach me? Right? And I sit there with myself and work through it without punishing myself. Right? Because when we punish ourselves, it drains us and we don't really learn.
Yeah, well, if we're judging ourselves, we can't move through whatever is blocking us because it'll be too hard to look at it.
Exactly. Right. And that's why I just sit there and I think about what I did without punishing myself, kind of like a timeout on the way. Think about a process and realize what happened within myself that triggered. And sometimes just seeing myself, that reflection as to what I do unto myself. And it's like, oh, I get it. It's like, I'm sorry, James, I get it. But you know what? I'm not stopping. I'm going to be this way forever. And our son is going to be that way forever, right? And there's nothing wrong with it. He just needs to find a partner who, even though he might get frustrated, the partner might get frustrated with him, but will still allow it.
Yeah.
Not try to change that quality. That's one thing I'll say about James is, yes, he might be annoyed. He might tell me stop and just focus, be serious for a minute. I'm serious for 1 minute, and then the second minute I'm not. But he never tries to change me, right? And that's all we want for our children as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
For them to be their authentic selves, or for this to be a safe world for them to be their authentic selves. Like so many kids are afraid of speaking and afraid of expressing because they don't want to annoy their parents.
Mm-hmm.
Their parents are emotionally volatile. So that's another thing to keep in mind for like so many parents who are hard on themselves. I think that this generation of parents is doing an amazing job because we all had emotionally volatile and emotionally immature parents. So for the most part, I
Mm-hmm.
don't really know anyone who's had parents who um, parented from a place of inner peace and like detachment.
Yeah, neither do I.
Yeah, so I think our generation, the fact that we're even learning that and talking about it, and even talking about the things that annoy us, because previous generations thought that their families had to look perfect and like present themselves as perfect. So they would never have honest conversations. And of course, I'm speaking generally.
Mm-hmm.
There are obviously exceptions in every generalized image or concept, but just generally, I think this is the first time parents can really admit to each other, like, I'm annoyed by my kids. Sometimes I just want to blow up at them, and it's so hard. And like, especially now, always being around your kids. And so
Yeah.
it's just something to keep in mind. Like, I think this generation's really doing a phenomenal job of looking inward instead of projecting onto the children.
Mm-hmm.
Like it,
Honestly, I think technology has a lot to do with it, though, because we have access to so much information now. And those parents that are wanting to change themselves or their ways, they have access to learning how to do it.
yeah,
Because back in the day, our parents did not have access to technology. They quite often didn't have access to books, and they also didn't even have time to read books because they were working much longer hours than the parents are working now.
yeah,
And some of them had more jobs just to be able to afford their children and be able to afford the food on the table and be able to give them even Christmas gifts or birthday gifts,
exactly.
right?
Emotional health and stability was not a priority.
No.
Survival was.
Yeah. And now that seems to be a huge priority, mental health,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because a lot more people are connecting and speaking out and saying that there's something going on here, right? Whereas before, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine, right? Tomorrow will be a better day. Tomorrow will be a better day. And then for some people, tomorrow didn't come because today was a hard day and they just couldn't handle it, right? Whereas now there is help, there's support, there's different ways of how you can help yourself. And it's all about helping yourself because wherever dark place you are at, nobody can help you to come out of it, right? In a way they can by being there, by supporting you, by cheerleading you, by being that guiding light in the forest, hypothetically speaking. But at the end of the day, it's a choice of that person to
Right.
follow that light, to listen, to do something about it, right? Because it's like whenever we go, whenever you take a class, online class, let's talk about for IPEC, for example, right? If we went to class and we learned all that stuff, and when we learned, and we never applied it, right? If we just learned and never applied it, it wouldn't stick, right? And we wouldn't be where we are now. We would just be learning and learning and learning. So applying is part of the learning process. So whatever stage anyone is at, Learning is great. It's one of the best things that any one of us can do and has access to. But if you don't apply what you learn, then nothing is going to change. Everything is going to stay the same. And sometimes you can even go backwards, right? I'm also speaking from my own experience, because when I was in that really, really, really dark place, I was learning, right? And I also learned that it's very important to apply what I'm learning. And by apply, it can be as simple as this. Like, for example, one thing I share with a lot of people when they reach out to me and they ask me, um, I'm in a really dark place, I'm really sad, or I'm really like, I'm always crying, or it's just, I don't want to do anything, I have no energy. What can I do? Like, what can you help me? Like, tell me what to do, right? And this is where, as a coach, I wouldn't tell you what to do because I believe you have answers, but as a friend, I can give you some suggestions, and I will not hold any of them as expectations for you to do, right? So I always say, like, what helped me was honestly just, I would call it re-brainwashing yourself. Now, what does that mean? It's kind of like from what we were talking about last week, right? Rewiring the brain. But this is in the way like re-brainwashing yourself. And that, so the way I did it was listening to YouTube videos, right? First thing in the morning, because the first 20 minutes of your morning are the most crucial minutes of your morning, because that is when you're most open to receiving anything and everything, right? So this is where meditation can come into place as well, right? Especially if you're doing visualizing kind of meditation and you want to bring things in and manifest things into your life, the first 20 minutes of your morning, that's where you do it. Or if you want to wake up in the middle of the night. But what I was doing was listening to motivational speeches in the morning, right? And most mornings, especially in the beginning, I was crying. I was constantly crying because it was making sense to me and it was healing me from inside. So everything that was happening on the inside, all that healing that was happening, it was being expressed outwards through my tears. So if you're trying to do that, if you're doing that and you find yourself crying, don't hold it back. Don't hold it back. Release it. Cry some more. Cry some more. Crying is healthy. I'm sure you would agree. Crying is healthy, and it's the best way to release.
I've always loved crying.
Me too. And some would say it's a girl thing. Women cry, girls cry. No, it's not.
It's honestly energy moving. Like that's how energy movement expresses itself through me so often. Like I've through tears.
Yeah.
And even sometimes like when I'm watching something like our friend Erica was a guest as a medium on this like haunted house type.
I found the episode on YouTube. Yes, I haven't had a chance to watch it. It's like 45 minutes, and I want to sit down and I want to watch it and I want to see her walk in because you were telling me. But anyways, go on. I'm so excited.
Like that whole, it was just like because I'm already prone to just like fully believing in the paranormal. Always have. So it's always had the effect on me where I just like feel the craziest chills and tears just stream from my face, like just streaming. Like I'm not crying, it's not sad, like I'm not experiencing emotion other than I don't know what emotion that is, because it's not necessarily fear. It's like maybe fear with awe and or just like utter like belief.
For some reason I have like this a crossing path
and like recognition. There's like so much going on.
I had this like
You broke.
Yeah, you were freezing a little bit too, because you were saying like you have so much like belief, and I heard crossing paths.
Ooh.
Right? It's kind of like when you're crossing paths, and it came to me like in the form of a question. But as you were speaking, like maybe you're crossing paths, right? And that time, and that's when you feel and experience, like it's almost like you see in the movies when a ghost
Yeah.
walks you,
Yeah, that, yep.
right? That's what I see as crossing paths. Like my legs are like all chilly now and cold.
I know, now I'm like, so now I have tears coming out of my eyes.
Because also when you think of them, you bring them in. When you feel that moment, and that's why I got goosebumps, because I can go back to a moment when I truly felt a huge crossing path moment in my life, right? I think I shared that with you already. But anyways, those people that might not have heard it, I guess I'll share it again. And then I won't go into too much detail, but kind of, so some of you know, and I know Rachel, you know that I lost twin girls, right? So we lost twin girls November 9th to 2008. And then a couple of days later, we got a dog, which was to replace the twins in a way, right? Mind you, when I say replace, I don't actually mean replace because it cannot be replaced. They could not be replaced, but it was just to fill that hole in my heart. So the girls passed away because the heart stopped beating. Now on my 30th birthday, my dog passed away because his heart stopped beating. Happy birthday, Yana. And I knew that there was a gift in that, and I kept saying that. I know you're trying to give me a gift, but I don't want it. I don't understand it. So I was resisting it for a while. And by a while, I mean about a year, I was resisting it. No, actually it was like a year and a half. It was a year and a half that I was resisting it. Because now I'm like looking at the numbers, right? A year and a half, I was resisting that gift. And that's when I was like in the darkest place I've ever been, because everything just came to me at once. All of my traumas throughout my entire life just came to me at once. So my 30th birthday, he passed away. On my 31st birthday, after my 31st birthday, that's when I started kind of like learning a little bit more about the spiritual side, the spiritual world, the awakening and all that kind of stuff. And then on my 32nd birthday, I remember, and this is where the paths crossed. Okay. Now, when I also talked about the twins, what I forgot to mention is my dad's mom passed away a month before the twins, and my husband's grandfather passed away a month after the twins, right? So there's that. And that was all in 2008. And then my dog passed away when I was 30 years old. Now, fast forward to when I was 32 years old on my birthday. And I knew that birthdays were the days that's the day that we're born, and that is the day that we are reborn, even though we are reborn every morning. But in this like spiritual realm, I would say that we are reborn on our birthday, right? We are completely a new person, and you get a new beginning, new start, even though we still get that every single morning. Right. So what happened was I was gathering my notes, my papers, and putting it all in the basket. And I got this digital timer. Right. It's a new timer, new battery, everything. And by new, I mean it was a couple of weeks old, and I never had an issue with it before that and after that. So what happened is I had my timer set for 30 minutes, so that way I can time myself and do things for 30 minutes. And I put everything in this basket. And I had like a split second thought of the twins, the grandparents, and then Zeus passing, all of that, right? And I took a few steps away, like I turned away from my basket. I took a few steps towards the kitchen, and then I hear beep, beep. I'm like, what the fuck is that? Like, where is that coming from, that noise? And I know that noise because when I was setting the timer, that's the noise it makes, right? So I step back to look at the timer, and I look at the timer and it says 32 on it. And I was turning 32 years old. And I instantly felt Like it's cold and shivers and goosebumps and that crossing of paths of all of them invading me. And now thinking about it, and every time I think about it, every time I speak and share this, I feel it again, that they're literally like part of me, right? And I knew that that was all of them saying happy birthday to me. And I just looked at it and I'm like, thank you. And I started crying. Um, and I was like, okay, well, that is proof that our birthdays are extremely significant and our loved ones are especially with us on those days, celebrating our birth again, right? So that was my experience of feeling all of them inside of me at once. And honestly, like it's one of those experiences that it's really difficult to explain it and put it into words.
It's like it's the ineffable. That feel it's like it is. It's so difficult to explain it. Words
Mm-hmm.
just don't do it justice. That's why I love meeting other soul family who resonates with this kind of concept. Like what we're trying to do, we're trying to conceptualize the experience of that intensity with moments like that. And it's so hard to describe in words. So what I do know to be true is that when you talk about it, you know, my eyes start watering and I get chills. Like when one of my friends was telling me about when she was on a paranormal investigation assignment, and she told me what she discovered, and she was telling me that I had tears streaming from my face and chills. And again,
Yeah.
in the show where Erica, like the whole show leading up to Erica coming in and like telling everyone what was up, like I was just like had a blanket over me and was like hiding, but like watching. And so like it's all, and even the episode of the Goop Lab with Gwyneth Paltrow where they were practicing their gifts, their clairvoyance.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like the whole time I was watching that, I just like had chills and tears streaming down my face. And it's the only conclusion I can make, or the only message is trust it, it's real. Like all the magic that you've always believed in, like all the paranormal, all of it, it's all real. And when you were saying crossing paths, I was like, I felt it as though I was living on either side, like almost in between the space that we see and the space that we don't see. And I was the veil.
Mm-hmm.
Like you know, like I'm the veil, the lens that is trying to translate what we don't see into what we do see. But there's just some things that I get, like again, they're ineffable. Like we can't, they're not
Mm-hmm.
meant to be translated, they're simply meant to be experienced.
Yeah, because it comes from a feeling,
Mm-hmm.
right? You feel it in that moment, and then trying to put it into words, there's no such words in the vocabulary to explain it because it's like it's like intuition. It resides in our heart, and we just speak because we pass it through our translator, but it doesn't always make sense. We can't always speak it clearly because we feel it. And these experiences, we just feel them. And I like how our topics, like, we have no topics. We just hop on, start talking, and whatever comes.
I know. I was like thinking even earlier today. I was meditating on what I thought I wanted to talk about, and but every time, like the key is to detach any expectation, any desired result, any end
Yeah.
result, and go with the flow. So that's exactly what we're doing. Like, I was not expecting to be talking about the paranormal and like Beyond the Veil and this kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's my favorite thing to talk about.
I love talking about all the crazy stuff that everyone else, not everyone, but quite a few people in my life are like looking at me like, oh my God, Yana, please, please, please keep this stuff to yourself. Don't tell this to anyone, okay? Don't talk like that because they will lock you up, Yana. And I'm just like, you know what?
That,
You just need time because your mind is not expanded enough to be able to understand it. And it's one of those things that I, again, intuitively speak and it's out of my mouth before I can even process what I've said myself. And it makes sense, right? It makes sense to me because it's like knowing without knowing. I feel it, I understand it, but I can't even explain it to a person because they need to have those senses involved as well.
right. That knowing, that just clear knowing, that's clear cognizance. And unless someone else experiences that, they're not going to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Because we depend so much on proof, especially proof that we can see with our eyes.
Yeah.
So we've been kind of stripped of our intuition or the value that we place in our intuition because there's no proof. It's like when I quit my job and I was just like, I'm being led by the universe. It's all good. That sounded crazy, but I just trusted because
Yeah.
that feeling. Like, this is where I'm going. Like, you can't see it, but I can see it.
Yeah. You might not be actually seeing it, but you are feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's like seeing it without seeing it, but feeling it and almost like seeing it at the same time.
It's like a magnetic pull, just like pulling me forward, and it feels like alignment. And
Now,
anything else feels like a deviation.
now, question: when that happened, when you were feeling that, was there any sense or feeling of fear involved in that?
So much fear. I mean, but mostly fear of how I was going to explain it to people in my life, like
Okay, so that fear had everything to do with everyone else.
externally based fears. And there was an internal fear of my own greatness, because what pulls that like magnetic pull is belief in self, and belief that like, no, really, the universe is leading you. Like, that's scary to admit.
Yes, it is scary to admit because then all of a sudden you feel it, you understand it, and then also kind of attaching that to other people. How do I explain to people that I just know? I just know and feel, because how do other people look at you, look at me when I say that? I just know,
Mila.
right? They look at us like we have a third eye. Like there's something wrong. I mean, we do, and that's right.
That's exactly what's occurring. That's what's leading us, the third eye.
Yeah.
Mom.
And the other ones are scared for themselves, because what they do is they take your experience, your life, and they attach themselves to it, and that's why they are the ones experiencing fear, because they're thinking, well, if I do that, but it has nothing to do with you, right?
Yeah, it's like we all have our own barometers, and that's what relationships are for, is to reflect back information and to apply it within. So when I actually had this experience last night and kind of this morning, of a conversation last night that stuck with me, and I couldn't seem to shake it. It was creating all sorts of blocks, and I was able to detach this morning and realize I could see what that person was projecting, and why what I was offering was such a threat to that person's reality.
Mm-hmm.
And it came out the way it comes out in conversation in relationships, is when the ego feels threatened, it's going to project. So my insight and vision into humanity and how we all operate, um, that's it's also so part of my energetic makeup and who I am is this sense of oneness. Like that's where I resonate from, that feeling
Mm-hmm.
of unity, and I prefer to stay there and just walk that frequency with every step. So when I offer that to someone with really strong opinions and really strong judgments in either direction, uh, the ego, their ego feels threatened, and so it digs its heels in deeper. And when it does that, it usually projects toward me, and then I'm left feeling misunderstood. And I take that misunderstanding personally for a little while, and until I go deeper, and I'm like, what is this even about? Like, this, this person does not yet see or understand or receive the same information, and your information in general, like the, not just from source but from the world, like from our echo chambers. We live in different echo chambers. So I was like, why is this sticking with me and like clogging my energy like this? And it wasn't until I saw, it's kind of like astral projecting into this person's, like journeying into this person's entire perception, like the world, the reality created through all of the decisions this person made throughout his life, which led to all the identity attachments he holds today, or his ego holds. And it all just became clear, and I was like, oh yeah, that projection has nothing to do with me. It's that the judgment was actually the conversation, the projection was judgment. And I was like, like I was like, I don't got time for this. Like, if you're judging, we're in two different realities. And then I realized that judgment's not about me. It's not about my beliefs. That person judging themselves is the ego wanting to use a relationship, another person's opinions as confirmation bias to keep choosing the avatar it's been choosing. And I cannot reflect, if someone projects unconsciousness to me, I can't reflect it back and be like, you're right. Like, I can't people please anymore. I'm not willing to anymore. So when I'm available to um, to offer, like to agree with someone's unconscious projection and opinion that's keeping them stuck, like I can see if it's keeping them stuck, and if I'm not willing to agree with it, it's gonna hold up a mirror that the other person's ego doesn't want to look into. So
Mm-hmm.
so anyway, so I was able to filter that out of my system today, and the result is compassion, because I could see how, based on the judgments this person was making, I'll just give you an example of what the judgment was.
Mm-hmm.
So this conversation was about there's just so many elements. It was about Bill Gates, and this person was like chanting up Bill Gates's philanthropic endeavors, and I was just keeping my opinions to myself for the most part, because we get our information from different places. And if this person really admires Bill Gates, that's cool. But then when he was like done waxing poetic about how great Bill Gates is, he was like, but evil billionaires. And it was that evil billionaires thing that just like keeps coming up. And that's when I was like, I need to challenge this. I need to challenge this story, because it keeps coming up for this person. Like, he can't move past, he can't build a bridge to the masses because he's absorbing this judgment that the masses are pointing fingers at people with money and saying evil. So I was like when he was like, but evil billionaires, eh, I I had grown tired of just like hearing that as like even a thing, and I was like, well, I don't think anyone's calling them evil. And it started this whole back and forth, and I finally was just like, all right, change the subject. Because I was like, we're all one, trying to start saying like we're all one, like this side pointing fingers, calling them names, them pointing fingers, calling them like that side names is not getting any of us anywhere. We need to build bridges, like we're all one. And then he was like, I'm not one with like so. It just
I can totally understand how I can like see this conversation playing out because
exhausting.
understanding the energy levels and then the language, the limiting belief, the money story that this person has. I'm like seeing it go, and it's like, oh my god, that's gold. Because once that person starts to wake up and attach feeling and to understanding the other side of it, that's why I say golden. Then that change is going to be like golden.
And that's why I came to this morning, just ultimate place of compassion for this person, because what I realized is that story, that evil billionaire story that he keeps repeating as like his objection to Bernie Sanders and like the people, really, the movement. I realized that has nothing to do with the movement or Bernie or me or us. That's him judging himself for the choices he's made throughout his life based on money. Simple
Mhm.
as that. Like, and I saw flashes of his life choices, like going to business school, like prioritizing the economy, like economic health above social or ecological health because of probably what they learn in business school. And business school is probably taught in a way that serves the hierarchy. It's probably created by the hierarchy. So I just saw all of his identity attachments, and I was like, oh, this person's going to have a tough time adapting to the new paradigm if he's holding on to this, like, I'm evil, the choices I've made are evil. That's where I realized this morning, it's like the evil billionaires thing has, it like always comes out of nowhere. I was like, who calls anyone evil? Like, where's this coming from? Every time it comes up, and I'm like, this is a recurring theme for him. Nobody else is saying it.
Well, actually, a lot of people do. They say money is the root of all evil, right? They'll say money is the root of all evil. They'll say
Right.
many. I'm just trying to think. I mean, that's the one that really comes to mind. That really has the word evil in it, and that there's another one. I can't remember how the saying goes, but basically, all the rich people, the billionaires,
Oh, absolutely.
are mean, evil, and greedy.
And that's what he was holding on to. But I just meant in the framework of the conversation we were having, in the space we were holding,
Mm-hmm.
no one in that space was doing that. Everyone was listening. No one was bringing it up. So
Mm-hmm.
from my point of view, to bring it into the conversation was his way to receive confirmation bias from the people he was having a conversation with, like using us as reflections to be like, yeah, fuck the people who call billionaires evil. You know, so to, yes, of course, there's money. Billionaires are evil. Money's all evil, and I'm more than aware that they exist because I've had to work through my own money story
Mm-hmm.
issues. But when it comes up that in the framework of those conversations where I'm like, who are you talking? Like it's come up also with other people in my family, like specifically male baby boomers, where there was one dinner where my cousins and I were just talking about solutions, like innovations for everyone's benefit. We're talking about the greater good, the things we can start implementing now if we just could focus and have the time and resources. And then my cousin's father said something about I forgot how the conversation shifted so abruptly from like us like chancing up innovation to him being defensive. And he's like, well, what I don't like is like everyone pointing at the baby boomers and saying you didn't do enough. And in that moment, I was like, my cousins and I looked at each other and we're like, who, what? Like, and yes, that mentality exists. It's out there, but nobody in that space was saying that. We were just talking about what we see for the future. So again, it's another one of those situations where, like, at first I was triggered and I was like, what the hell? Like, can't you just like make this not about yourself for 2 minutes? Like, nobody was talking about the baby boomers. And and so what I learned again, so in that situation again, it wasn't about us, it wasn't about anything we were saying. It was the own internal battle that they're dealing with, like the choices they've made. So it showed that he internally is judging himself for not doing enough back in the day, not doing enough when maybe he thought like he had a chance then, and is limiting himself in the now, or like not realizing that anything he could have done then he can still do now. And maybe he's holding on to guilt that maybe he didn't do more back then. So it's just a similar situation where I was just like, what are you talking? Like, nobody here is saying that. So it's taking the stories. It gave me insight to their gremlins, their internal critics, their internal dialogue, taking the stories that they hear, just as we hear stories about intuitives being crazy. You know, and like, we hold on to those stories and they replay and replay, and we kept so when we meet each other and meet Soul Tribe and we're like, yeah, people be calling me crazy all the time, but I know, and we chat with each other, we're like, yeah, you know what's up, like we have our confirmation bias. So they're doing the same thing, like they want the same, like, don't worry, like businessmen are awesome, or don't worry, baby boomers are awesome, like they want the same like feedback. But really it's their internal battle, just as trusting our intuition was our karmic journey that we had to figure out.
Exactly, right? And that's the thing, like we all carry these stories, like this guy's like, look at me.
It's so beautiful right now.
You're just looking out the window and sitting on my leg in my blanket, massaging with his feet.
Yeah. Making biscuits. Making biscuits.
Yeah, making biscuits.
I learned that phrase.
Oh, that's funny. So I guess it's kind of like a question and a statement at the same time, but I'll stick with the question side of it. What do you believe would happen if all these money stories, money limiting beliefs, money phrases that are negative, right, or bad, if they did not exist, and everyone believed that money, not power in a way of like controlling everyone, but I mean, I don't like that's where it ends for me, that question. Like, what do you think would happen if those negative money stories didn't exist? How many billionaires would there be?
I think it's I don't know, that I can't imagine there would be any billionaires. So here's a trick
question. It was a trick question and you did a good job.
Well, because here's the thing, and this is going to bring us back to the 7 levels of energy.
Yeah.
So for every level of energy, there is a mindset of money. So at level 1, it's scarcity, where a lot of people are at.
Hmm.
At a level 2, it's greed. That's where many of the billionaires are at. At level 3, it's control. Also where many of the billionaires and CEOs are at.
Hmm.
Even people, well, I'll get back to that, but even a lot of the philanthropy I see, I read the energy of the philanthropic acts, and a lot of it is level 3. Some of it's level 4, so
Hmm.
level 3 is control. Level 4 is charity. Just like the level 4 energy we use in concern for others, sometimes at level 4, you want something in return. Like when you are charitable in your energy and your concern for others, you want to be recognized for it. Same thing often with level 4 a level 4 mindset money. You want your charitable you want your generosity noticed.
Hmm.
You want credit for it. So at level 5, the mindset of money is opportunity. So that's the level of energy when you invest in yourself. So it's like when you have money at level 4, when you have money to spend at level 4 and you think, oh, my family needs this, I need to spend it on these things, like well, I can't spend it on myself. And then at level 5, you're like, you see your true human resource. You see that maybe this is the time to invest in myself or in your homies. A level 5 investor would see if a group of intuitives developed a business plan or a plan where money would be regenerative and
Hmm.
greater good. An investor from level 5 would perceive it from a much different place from an investor at level 3.
Yeah.
The investor at level 3 would want to control. The investor at level 5 would fully trust and believe in
See,
their.
level 5, I would add to that, the way what I see is, I like the analogy of fill your own well.
Yes.
So
Yep.
level 5 is when you take and you fill your own well. You fill yourself with everything that you know, intuitively know, is going to bring others and help others. And then you can start giving it to other people.
Yes. Yep. And
Mhm.
at level 6 is money is to be shared by all. And at level 7, it's money doesn't exist. It's just energy. Everything's just energy. We're all just energy. Everything's just energy. So to answer your question, if I'm seeing scarcity and greed diminish first, I'm seeing a greater circulation of energy flowing to the farmers, to the children, to mothers, to creatives. So I'm seeing everything regenerate. I'm seeing food regenerate, water purify, emotional health regenerate, spiritual health. I'm seeing us changing what currency even is,
Hmm.
and getting to that place of level 6 and 7 to be shared by all and doesn't exist. We can even figure out how to live without it.
Yeah. And that's why it was a trick question. Because at those levels, which, I believe the that is reality. Okay, that is reality, and we each live in our own reality,
Right.
right? So in reality, there is no money, none of that exists. There is no greed, none of that exists. But in each and every one of our realities, there's a lot of stories that do exist and that are very real. And those real stories affect our everyday being, right? So if
Right.
those stories didn't exist, we would be living in level 5, 6, and 7, mainly probably in level 6 and 7.
I mean, and I see that's where we're like. I perceive that's where we're going. I think we are gonna figure something else out. The billionaires can remain billionaires, but it's just not gonna mean anything.
I just laugh, you know why? Because honestly, I just felt like, I don't know, it's like a tiny little vision that I saw of our future, and it's a whole different crazy topic, but it's a flying saucer with aliens. They are the future, right? They are able to go from planet to planet. They're able to, they have all the answers. They know when we are being stupid and when something needs to happen, something needs to be fixed. They know that in order for the whole universe to survive, because humans are stupid and they'll shoot things out into the outer space, and like God knows what could happen when if that ever happened.
I mean, we've even considered sending our nuclear waste, that's a product of weapons, into space.
Well, apparently, I watched a show that I think it was nuclear waste or something. There was something nuclear. They shot up into the outer space, like from Earth. They launched it. They shot it. But these aliens are so advanced. They knew and they know the ripple effects it could have. They shot it down and destroyed it in seconds before it could reach outer space.
More intelligent species out there.
We are intelligent, but we get into our heads too much. If we listen to our heart is honestly, there's a reason why it's the center. We get all our intuition, we get all our messaging, we get everything through our heart. And that's why, like, I'm also like seeing like there's a lot of pictures on Google, and I just see this like it's kind of like this man or a human going like this, and everything is shooting out of the heart, not necessarily the head. The head is just the attic, it's just a storage space. But the heart, that's where everything is connected to, our heart, right? We can't live without half of our heart, but we can live without half of our brain.
That's true.
I think there's a reason for that as well. And that's why when scientists are trying to study humans and how to decide and try to study intuition, try to study all these things, they focus on the brain. But that's not the place to focus on. The heart is.
Also the gut, like the gut has its own brain, and when I get super strong intuitive hits, I feel it in the gut. Like I feel it in the gut before my heart has the time to be like with ignoring red flags, for example. My gut knew the moment. Oh, it's embarrassing, but my gut knows the moment like I meet people if something feels off, and then my head will convince me that to give someone another chance, and then it gives my heart time to be like, oh, I love this person, like I care about this person, I'm concerned for this person, and feel the heart cord attachment. So the intuition from my gut knew immediately before either the head or the heart had a chance to make up their own attachments.
Yeah, I can relate to that as well in friendships, right? And I mean, the relationship, I only have one relationship, right? So I can't really speak of relationships I mean,
they're all relationships. Friendships are relationships.
Yeah. But I do remember, even as a child growing up, that there was, my gut would tell me that don't go for it. And I listened to my gut much better then than I do now. Now I ignore it because I know that even though this friendship, this relationship might be a difficult one, because I don't want to see your butt. He's like, see? Look at my butt.
Isn't it great?
I cleaned it for you. Just sitting there cleaning it. Come look at it now. Is it clean?
So fresh, it's so clean.
That's the song that was playing in my head. Now, back to the relationships. I still hold on to a few relationships that are challenging when my gut tells me like this person is living in a different world, in a different reality, and they don't understand you. I know they're trying to understand me, right? Because that's why they're still in my life. But like honestly, sometimes I wonder, well, what is the point of holding on to those relationships that my God is telling me let go of them, that they're holding you back, right? And the other side of it says, well, it's not always about you, Yana, right? It's not always about you. If they choose to have the relationship with you, they choose to have a friendship with you, and they're reaching out, there's a reason for that as well, right? For you and for them. And we get to, like, everyone that we meet is our teacher. So I get to learn things from them, through looking through their lenses and hearing stories and interpretations through their lenses. It's like a free discovery channel. That when I have clients with similar stories, I've already practiced that.
Yeah.
And I can go and have a conversation and then challenge the client with what they're bringing to the session.
And if it ever, again, like going back to the intuition, if it ever gets to the point where a relationship is infiltrating your vibrational frequency, your intuition will have a way of being like, and that's enough now. Like,
Yeah.
This story is over. It's served its purpose. This chapter's closed, and it's not personal. It's vibrational, and it's time to close that energetic invitation
Mm-hmm.
and move forward.
And I have done that even more times than I can count, especially when I was young, right? Growing up. And if somebody threw me out of alignment, threw me out of balance, bye, right? It just didn't work anymore because we were completely different people and we just went our own separate ways, right? But everybody, like you said, once they serve their purpose. And that was the time where I felt like, okay, enough is enough. You have served your purpose, knowing without knowing intuitively that it's time to move on.
Yeah.
Right? And there's nothing wrong with it. And I don't hold anything against anyone in my life. Even like when I lost the twins, when we lost the twins, right? We lost them on Sunday. We had the funeral on Tuesday, and I had to go back to work on Thursday, right? Like that's literally 2 days after the funeral, because my boss, I say boss with intention, with a reason, not a leader. My boss had a business to run, right? And because she had a business to run, I mean, and I get that, right? And I could have easily held that against her. Many people were telling me, you should do this, you should do that, you should have her fired. But I'm not that person.
Yeah.
And I'm not, what's the word? I'm not easily persuaded. So if I don't feel like that's what needs to get done, I won't do it. Yeah. And when it comes to harming, because that is harm, when it comes to harming other people, I won't do it. Yes, of course, I've imagined running her over with my car. I mean, who wouldn't? But I just imagined it. I thought about it once, and that was more than enough for me to let it go.
Right. You took the anabolic route, whereas the advice, the agendas that others were projecting were catabolic route, like to go after her, to take her down. That'd be level 2, and for you to choose to take responsibility, like responsibility is the core thought at level 3. Take responsibility of yourself and your thoughts, and decide that peace and moving forward was more important to you than taking someone else down and stirring up conflict. You took the anabolic route.
Mm-hmm. Because
Like,
it was,
why let conflict, and battling with someone, like, why let it play out any longer than it needs to? If you could have that internal, like, moment of being like, fuck her, like, running her over with my car, my imagination, and that's enough. Okay, move forward. You
yeah,
got to feel that energy for a moment and then be like, but that's not productive.
yeah.
Move
I
on.
honestly, I knew that eventually karma would catch up, and
Yes.
I would be able to witness it. And here's the really sad part, because I instantly went back into that moment when I said karma is going to catch up with her. Um, Fast forward a few years later, I was assistant manager at a different location, and she came to visit. And she was very distraught. She was very hurt because she had just lost her mother. And it was the same month as I had lost the twins, right, which was November. So her coming back and saying she had just lost her mother in November. I don't remember the date. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it was the same date. But just the sheer fact that she lost her mother that same month made me feel so bad. It made me feel somehow responsible for it, even though I, I, I mean, even to think of me myself thinking that I'm responsible for it, it's a little too thinking of like myself this powerful being. You know what I mean? Um, so I know that I'm not responsible for it. That I was not responsible for it, but it's just like that karma coming back, and her losing her loved one in that time, and then her dad was also getting really really sick that same month. Made me feel like really 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 bad,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
um because I've never been the person to like the level two where anger and revenge and I need to win. I was never ever that kind of person. um and I don't know, it just really made me feel bad,
Mm.
right? But that goes to show you the power of karma. And I know
Yeah.
she wasn't doing all those things on purpose. She wasn't doing them to hurt me. She wasn't doing them because she wanted to get me or whatever, because she was doing it because of her own inner self, of
Right.
everything that was going on inside her. And running your own branch, right? The bank branch with a lot of people, and it's really busy. And the customers that come in there are like, when I say crazy, I mean crazy, crazy. Like they're on meds, a lot of them. Like drunks coming in at like first thing we open in the morning, and they're literally like falling through the door coming inside. So this is the type of clientele we've had very often, and I understand where she was coming from, right? I totally get it. And that's why I never took it personally, because it was never about me. But in that time, I wasn't even thinking this is about me or this is about her. I just somehow knew, and somehow I was able to find that inner peace. And I've been able to do that throughout my entire life without really realizing it. But then the moment that my dog passed away, everything twisted and changed, and it became difficult, and it became a challenge. And even though I was still trying to think and live that way, it was a little bit more challenging. And the reason for that is that's what happens when you start to awaken. And that's why a lot of people, when they go through that process, they don't realize that they're in pain and they're suffering to that amount of degree, that they're going through that awakening process, that there is like neural pathways are changing and they're not connecting. And the reason for that is because it is your job to find ways of how you want them to connect. Is there another bird now?
Whoa.
To join us?
Cardinal.
Right? I mean, that is a sign as well.
Yeah.
I think that
It's like Eckhart Tolle often speaks about and writes about how sometimes spiritual awakening can happen just from like not being able to stand your current situation anymore. And his book, The Power of Now, starts off with his anecdotal experience of awakening. And the thought that catalyzed it was he thought, I just can't stand myself. I don't know if it was I can't stand myself anymore. I just can't stand myself. I can't, something along those lines. I don't know verbatim.
When you get sick and tired of yourself and the way you are.
Yeah, and then his next thought, he heard himself say, I can't stand myself. And then he heard himself say that. And I thought, well, that's weird. Are there two of me? Like, if I can't stand myself, then who's I? And then that whole, which led to him experiencing the now, the infinite now, just being present. And so that thought, that like frustration self was the catalyst for his spiritual awakening. And it's to be so powerful, it's like to like hate yourself that much or loathe yourself that much to finally not be able to stand it anymore and just like burst through the other side of that tunnel.
Yeah.
Or burst the tunnel open, the tunnel itself open.
I never read that book, but it feels like he's talking about my moment of awakening, right? When I was in that place and literally loathing myself and everything that I am, everything that I was. And it's like never good enough with anything. Really, 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 really like dark.
Hi. How you been?
Nice whiskers. Close the door, sweetie. So being in that place, like I said, for me, it was like going back to like that the trigger, the button that got switched, that put me over on that side. On the awakening side was the passing of my dog. Right. And I remember like, I think I also, not I think, I know I traumatized my parents when I called them and I told them on the phone without thinking, he's dead, he's dead. Like, who did they think I was talking about? Of course, my husband. So they started panicking and freaking out. What do you mean? What do you mean? And I myself am like, it's like out of body experience. I'm just like watching what the Siana is doing and saying and going through and experiencing and like looking back, like a lot of the things I don't remember because I was not in my body, right? It's like traumatic experiences where your parts of you, your soul, they go somewhere else, they go and hide. And that was the biggest part of me that had left. So since then, I've been trying to find the pieces back without realizing that that's what I've been doing, right? So when you're talking about that book and that moment of when we are literally like pushed over the edge into our, like we're forced into the awakening because intuitively, that's what I've been asking for. My entire life, that's what I've been asking for. That's what I've been wanting to understand everything. Right? And when I say everything, I mean everything. It's really hard to put it in words, but I mean, I can't even think of putting it in words right now, but understanding everything, like looking at the light right here, not just seeing the light, but seeing the people behind it. Like I bought this on Storage Wars, right? But looking at this light and seeing it as it was made in like probably 1950s. All right, I don't know if you can like see the design and the light. Probably like if I turn that off, you can see it, but there. Right, like seeing the design and the light, and seeing it as somebody made that light, like in 1950s, probably had a really really like horrible conditions they were working in, and there's a lot of like blood, sweat, and tears that might have been put in that, and seeing beyond what it is, and also the fact that it might, like, how many houses might it have gone through, and for it to still be here and in my room. And I refinished it because it was a different color, but I refinished it in my my colors that I like. And looking, like I said, like looking beyond what's there, looking through kind of like the veil,
Yeah.
about, right? And what's behind the veil? Behind the veil, that's the truth.
Yeah. It reminds me of that scene in Bruce's book. Um, you know
Yeah,
what I'm talking about?
yeah.
I love it.
In the
Yeah.
subway.
Yes. I, I love it. That's all I had to say.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And honestly, like I remember when I was listening to that scene, because I finished listening to that book when I went to Mod 3 classes. So I would get there early. I would sit there in the car in a parking lot before I go and pay for the parking. Um, so I would sit there in the car and listen and listen and listen. And I remember when I was listening to that, I was in tears. I was crying. I'm like, oh my God, that's so beautiful. Like, that's how I always felt for things, but I never put words to it. Like when I see a piece of furniture, I don't see it as just furniture. I've always seen it as something more. And then there's a lot of, like, I always thought of like energies being attached to it.
Yeah.
But then the other side of it, those energies that are attached to it, there's actually each of those energies has a story.
Yeah.
The man that made it, right? The man that painted it, the man that put it together, or a woman, right? A woman that put the knobs on it or whatnot, right? And then the energies of where this light has lived, the houses has lived. So that's how I saw it. I saw it as energies, all those energies attached to it. But
Mhm.
now there's actually a story to each one, every one of those energies.
Yeah. I just should we explain the subway scene? Um
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's when people will be like, okay, I want to go listen to this book or buy it and read it.
I didn't even know it was available for on audio. So now that I know that, because my
Oh,
hard copy is in Maine and I'm in Connecticut, so now
yeah.
I want to dive into that book again because that, like, while I was reading that book was the most present throughout. Like, I would read it and then go about my day and just be so present in every single moment.
Me too. And that's why I did it right before the classes. Because honestly, I felt like, because Bruce is the one that created IPAC. Bruce is the one that created the whole class and all of that. And this is his book, his what, third book, right?
Yeah,
And
I
that's
think
why, like,
I've I only
it's his
I've
third.
only read Energy Leadership and the this one. Is it
Yeah,
Uncovering the Life of Our Dreams or Your Dreams?
uncovering the life of your dreams. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that's why, like, I was listening to it intuitively knowing that that was going to set me up for success, for that much more success when I went into the classroom, because it allowed me to be like, I was in the story, I was feeling it and understanding it on so many different levels. Like, I honestly just felt like my heart and my stomach kind of like collide together for a second there, kind of like reliving that moment, and then going into the classroom as my highest self. And then
Oh my God, that's like giving me a soulgasm. I'm like, yes, 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 more.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's really good. But okay, so you can explain the scene.
Okay. So it's been 2 years since I read it. So, but I believe was the scene. I think it was the protagonist, and he was with a potential client, right? And they were
Yeah,
in the subway. And
really big potential client.
yeah, yeah. And instead of like trying to be salesy or like pushy or like gimmicky, the protagonist just decided to be real with the client and actually kind of share with him his perception, really, essentially, and he therefore challenged the client to look at the other people on the subway and imagine a day in their life. And I think the client did it, right? Like, didn't
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
start telling the stories of the people, like, start
Yeah.
imagining them, like, going home to their families or something like that?
Yeah. He was like attaching an actual story to, I can't remember if I remember the word glass. I don't know why, but I think it was like something to do with glass, maybe like a window or a frame or something, and how the person that was making it, it's this man, he's
Yes.
this much years old, he has this many kids, he has this wife, and like literally drawing a story.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a true story.
Right. But the key is that it was giving him empathy for all, like, the people, and realizing, like, getting outside of ourselves and realizing there are all these other people with their own stories. And that's actually, like, I remember telling my coach years ago, this is when she introduced me to Abraham Hicks. Like, I was telling her, I was telling her about just like my, like, why it was hard for me to, like, take up space, and like when I'm walking about the streets of Boston, why, like, I was always the one getting out of the way of other people. And I was like telling her, I was like, it's almost like we're walking and I can, like, see how busy their heads are. It's like their stories are going around in, like, this, like, cylindrical, like, funnel going all the way up to the universe. So I could just, like, see it.
I see gears. It's almost like, like when you have like a watch, the back of the watch, and it's clear and you can see the back of it. That's kind of like what I see, like grandfather clock. When you can see all the gears moving, that's what I see.
Yeah. And it's like more, and I didn't realize that, like, being an empath at the time, I had no idea what an empath was, or that I was just like a sponge for all of it.
Hmm.
But because I was such a sponge, I didn't have my own going on. I was just, like, seeing everybody else's and taking it all in, like, I was like, oh, they're busy. Oh, they got this. Like, everybody's, like, in a rush, and, like, no, it's like I was making myself invisible to the outside world because everybody else's, like, stories going, like, circuiting around their heads
Hmm.
were more, uh I guess, dense. I guess what comes to mind is density, because I could perceive their reality as though it was matter, like, in front of my face. And my energy is way more porous, so it was as though I was, like, myself as matter just disappeared completely. And I didn't give myself enough permission to take up space. Like, I've got my own story too. I want to go to, like, Walgreens and get my snack and go back to work too. If I'm dodging everyone, like, getting out of everyone's way, because their stories took priority, like, their stories were more important than my story. I realized, like, that's kind of how I was living my life. Like, everybody else's story was more important, and I lost my own agenda along the way. But that's part of the empath. Like, we can see into each person's journey and each person's life and each sense others' emotions. And until we realize that we are sponges and take it on and absorb it, you don't realize we're in a constant state of trying to alchemize the density instead of,
Hmm.
leading by example, influencing the energy with our own energy,
Hmm.
constant state of taking it in. So, yeah.
Yeah. Do, do you think that how many empaths do you think there are out there in the world? And who do you think is an empath?
You mean like a number?
Yeah, I guess a number if you
I
can come
don't
up with a number.
know. It's so hard. Like, at one point, I thought maybe like 200,000 tops. but it keeps growing because consciousness expansion is occurring so rapidly. And I think that anyone, and my definition of empath keeps changing. Like at one point I thought an empath was someone born with these extrasensory with extrasensory access, like the access into the deeper realms of the universe. We were born from the place of peace, love, unity, harmony, and then we were born into this world that's so much denser, fear-based.
Mm-hmm.
And but we remember the harmony. So we're that bridge between this dense, fear-based reality and the harmony that we were born from. But then I think about, wait, and so then I thought empaths were unique in that, like, we didn't forget it. So we're expand at that higher frequency. But then when I think about babies and little kids, they're so tuned in.
Yep.
So that changes my definition. Like, maybe most of us are empaths and just have such strong blocks, because also as I observe people's behaviors, even those who are so stuck in anger and selfishness and narcissism, I recognize their sensitivity, like the things that set them off. Like, they're on the opposite end of the spectrum behaviorally, but the sensitivity, like, they actually are picking up on the most subtle behaviors and the most subtle comments and launching into their own behaviors as a result. So I don't know, it's weird. Like, my definition of empath keeps changing. And so now, like, using energy levels, I think I think the energy levels that come to mind now when it comes to empath is level 6, because it's that access to those deeper realms and that third eye vision.
Mm-hmm.
And I think anyone can get there.
Yeah.
Like, that's where, like, all those clair gifts come through, is at level 6. Claircognizance, clairsentience, clairvoyance, clairaudience. And I think like, the more I really look at people and like pay attention, the more I can detect it within them, no matter what their behaviors are.
Mm-hmm.
And picking up on something, like, even the most sociopathic behaviors, well, they're picking up on something.
Yeah.
Like, they really are. And it might not be connected to the heart, but there's like a sensitivity there that is driving all of this behavior. Okay, so empaths, I think, are just like so finely tuned in our sensitivity.
Mm-hmm. Well, often they are referred to as sensitives.
Yeah.
And if we use that definition as sensitives, each and every human is a sensitive, which means that each and every human being is an empath, which basically, if we look at it as an equation, and I like equations, right? It's like empath plus human plus sensitive, or empath plus sensitive equals human, right? Because those two are technically in one. Like, sensitive is an empath. Empath is a sensitive, and each and every human being is sensitive. That's why we have those buttons. That's why we have those triggers. That's why when someone says something, some of us are being called, you're just too sensitive. You're too sensitive, right? All of us have heard that at one point in our life, that you're too sensitive. That right there is an indication that you are sensitive, which means empath, which means you are a human being. Congratulations, you are a human being.
And then right, like, if you just think of the nature of being a human, like, of course we're sensitives. of course, like we're born like
Gift. It's a
we're born
gift.
out of nothing. Like we're like created out of nothing.
Yeah.
Just energy. We're just energy that somehow materializes into a human.
Through with an egg and a sperm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like what? It makes no sense. It's just how does that happen? How did two people combine their ingredients to birth an entire new universe?
Yeah. And it's not even like they might have DNA of this one and that one, but it's a whole entire different human being. And they're never made the same. I mean, the same oven, the same ingredients, and yet the result is always different.
So,
Always.
and of course, so yeah, like I think that we're all born from source energy.
Mm-hmm.
And with our unique karmic paths, I think the difference between some who awaken to their sensitivity and embrace it and the connectivity, like humans are powerful. There is no, the fact that we're all creating a paradigm with our minds is an indication to me that we all have access to our power.
Mm-hmm.
And I think though some of us are old. I think there's old souls who this could be our last round as a human on Earth, and we have different missions. I think we're all born with different missions and different karmic journeys, and some in this lifetime will not uncover their gifts and reconcile with their gifts, but they might in the next. And we empaths, like those who caught on in this lifetime, caught on early enough before achieving greater and greater amounts of level 6 energy in the world, like while the world's still primarily at level 2. I think that, or average at level 2, I think that there are empaths. I think there are beings who understand. Maybe we're the volunteers more so than empaths, but we're the volunteers who have come here hearing our mission stronger
Mm-hmm.
than others first. Like it has to, we can't all just awaken at once. We can't all just start building at once. There's got to be people who lead the way first. And
Otherwise, it'd be a crazy shit show.
yeah,
I see everyone like kind of like running and trying to build everything, build their own, and nobody would be really working together. There needs to be some kind of like leader, someone to go into the cave first.
yeah, like it has to be like a staggered awakening, or else uh, like if people hadn't come before us and we were experiencing this, like I know there were key words that clued me in and gave me permission to be the person that I became and am still becoming, and they were words like light worker, stars.
Mm-hmm.
I remember reading these, it was called the galactic log that my ex forwarded me from one of his mentors, and his mentor would speak about a time when the light awaken and to our missions, and I'd be reading, like my ex was like, yeah, he's like, I would send these to my spam folder until like I started hearing you talk, and I thought maybe you would resonate with these, and he forwarded them to me, and I was like, oh my god, this is what I'm talking about, like this is exactly it. And so seeing those words like light worker, starseed, gave me the permission to be like, well, that's my job as a human on Earth. There's no other explanation for everything I'm feeling right now other than my job is light worker.
Mm-hmm.
And I had that same feeling when I discovered the word empath. Like my job is empathy. That's why I'm here. And that's the most valuable thing on planet Earth right now.
Mm-hmm.
So all these like words were just symbols of my subconscious to guide me and give me permission. And so I think empaths are maybe I think we maybe clued in sooner, and other people will too. And why I brought up these emails, like, had his name was Lon. He has since transitioned, but had Lon had not experienced these transmissions from source first, written these emails, when would I have clued in? So someone always has to go first and give the next wave of awakening permission to awaken and give those clues, and each wave will then turn around and spread the next trail of breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
Gotta happen that way. It's not all gonna be at once. It kind of feels like it's all at once right now, how accelerated it is.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that there is time right now where there's a lot more awakening happening, and people are realizing their truth,
Yeah.
right? And they're working through what they thought they wanted, and they thought they didn't want this. All of a sudden, they're forced to do this, like staying home and working from home. All of a sudden, they're like, I do want this. This is what I want. This is where like the freedom lies. That at the end of the day, we don't want like for the longest time, I thought that what I wanted was to sit at home and do nothing, nothing but eat chips, binge on junk, and watch Netflix. And let me tell you, I did that, and I'm glad I did, because I realized that is not what I wanted. Not what I wanted at all. Because sitting there and doing nothing will make nothing out of me. And that did not feel good. Yeah. So then I started to discover, like, what is it that I want then? Because I thought I wanted this, but I don't want it because it's mindless, it's draining. Yes, it's fun for the time being, and it's a good thing to go through to realize maybe that's not what you want, right? I even thought, well, maybe I can be like a Netflix critic and like talk about the shows that I watch. And some people do that, right? And I'm glad that people do that. And then some people will read that. Whereas I realized I didn't want to do that either. Neither one, no read, no write. Right? What do I want to do? This.
Yes.
Have conversations, talk about energy, having clients, help them through their stuff, through their shit, and help them with achieving their goals and dreams and living their most authentic self, and allowing those dreams and goals to become reality. I actually had someone question and ask, what does the snapping mean? So I thought I'd let you explain what that means, so when people watch, they can understand what that means.
To me, it's like an affirmation, or like it's like I feel like it's like chanting it up, like sending it up to the universe, and being like, universe, you get that one, you get that one. Like it's like
waves, frequency.
I'm with you.
Sound is waves.
Yes. And like it's like amplifying. Like if one of us says something that is like an indication that resonated, it's a blessing, it's a praise. Like let's send that up, like sending up praises. I like picture like energy going up, and like prayers and prayers going up, and then blessings, and trusting that the universe will be like, I hear you. I feel that that's the authentic vibe you are putting out there, and I will rain blessings down on you for those snaps.
And we actually got to experience almost instant answer to all of us snapping to something that someone said in the circle.
Mm-hmm.
Information is
that And then we just laughed like,
It's like because like when we snap, honestly, what I see, it's like you know how the Wi-Fi signal shows on
yeah.
phones, like kind of like a letter S. So that's what I see. Like you snap and letter S sends. You snap again and another letter S, and it just goes. Like
Like little like crescent moons, like getting bigger and bigger,
yeah,
expanding and expanding, like side.
vibration.
Yeah.
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 Hopefully that explains it to people that I wanted to understand what does the snapping mean. Um, a few different ways, but at the end, it's basically just bringing it into reality.
Yeah. And it's like enthusiasm. And it
Yeah.
also like and also it shows that we're tuned in to our intentions. So like we'll be listening, we're talking, and language is actually not the most efficient. So then when we hear something that resonates so deeply, we show that enthusiasm. It feels like we're like that's the key ingredient that we're gonna weave this web, and we're taking that and sending it up into the vibrational escrow, that vibrational web and
Mm-hmm.
tapestry that we're weaving together, and then it sends up and it like connects to the next like idea that we chanted up. And
Mm-hmm.
it yeah, go ahead.
That just kind of gave me like a little bit of like I guess an idea or a vision. I'm just sitting. It's almost like I saw myself sitting down in that time where I was in my dark place, watching Netflix all the time, not being able to get up and do anything because I simply and mentally could not do it. And in the moments when I did have like a good positive thought or something good happen, what if I had this tool of simply just snapping?
Mm-hmm.
That moment when something like a tiny little glitter speck. I like glitter, right? So put glitter everywhere. A tiny little glitter speck comes by snapping. I could almost see like glitter starting to come around and bringing that, like rewiring the brain. Because we're talking about the
Yeah, I was just thinking rewiring the brain. Yep.
because when you were talking about the web, I just saw the wiring of the brain where I was talking about before, where you're
That
sitting
makes a lot of snap.
it's waiting for that connection. How are you going to make that connection? With the snap. Snap those fingers, make those connections because it's waiting. You have this negative here and you have this positive here. You snap and you come somewhere in between. And eventually, one will become stronger than the other. And it's usually good always wins against the evil, right? So snap that into reality.
Yes. Ugh, exactly.
Oh, this is good.
It's also a way to celebrate. Like in as coaches, we celebrate achievements no matter how small, no matter how big. We celebrate our clients' achievements. So when we use snapping on our calls and with our sisters and on those sessions, like someone will be telling about their process, their journey, their achievements. They might not always recognize that they just told us of an accomplishment. They might just be already on to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes when someone says an accomplishment and we're like, yo, they might not even know that it's worthy of celebration until they see us being like, send that shit up. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many, like, it's like whenever you feel called to celebrate, to like share an enthusiasm.
Yeah. You know what I used to do? I used to go like this, like myself as a little kid, go like
That's basically what it is.
yeah, that's what it is, right? Without all that animation that I bring sometimes, right?
And it's also a great way now, now that it's just like in my head thinking more and more about how people can connect intimately through technology, things like Zoom. When we are on a call of like 9 people, 12 people, and we're all on silent so that you can hear the speaker can be talking. And when you see a bunch of people being like, yes, yes, and you're encouraged to keep going, you're like, all right, I'm on the right track.
I've
But we're all,
experienced that. Yeah.
yeah, it's body language and it's powerful because there's so much more to communication than words.
Yeah. Well, what is it like? 80% of communication is through body language.
Oh,
I
wow.
can't, I can't remember the percentage, but it's like really high. It's like 70, 80, or even 90% of communication is all body language. Because you can say any kind of sentence, but let's say you're saying good job to someone. You can say good job,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or you can say good job, right? That's body language. And those two, that same sentence is heard differently. It's not just the tone, but if you notice, the tone is also with the eyebrows, right? When I say good job, it's a kind of like condescending, right? When I say good job, that is more encouraging. So even though it does come across with the tone, the face also speaks, right? Emotions and expressions, they speak. So body language, right? And that's
Which
why.
again, my Zoom is so awesome, and this is such a great time to connect virtually,
Mm-hmm.
seeing each other's faces, and being able to experience a pause, or you can tell when someone's feeling empathy or sympathy in their facial expression, or like confusion, like if someone's if, you can just read so much from someone's face.
Yeah. And that's why I love doing video chats. I used to be, like, honestly, I kid you not, I used to be petrified being on camera. Like, when I say on camera, I mean even doing like the FaceTime with someone. They would call me and I'd be like, look at the ceiling. Don't look at me, right? And especially like all the millennials, that's how they talk, right? That's how my kids like to talk. My daughter likes to talk through her messenger.
Speaking of video, it froze.
Yeah, yours
Oh
froze.
no, this is like a super long freeze.
Huh. I can see myself not frozen.
It's been frozen for a while.
Yeah, your screen is black now for some reason. I'm like closing. You know, sometimes when we see our own videos, it doesn't look the same as when after it's recorded. So I want to take a look afterwards how it works out. Is yours still frozen?
Oh, I'm back. It like kicked me out altogether.
Oh, you're back. There you go.
Did I disappear from your screen?
What I saw was just your name come up,
Okay.
and then you came back. Mm-hmm. But what I was saying is like the video conversations used to be really difficult for me. I was scared and petrified, and then I just found myself doing it.
See, that makes me want to snap. Like, right? Yes, yeah, you know,
just doing it. And then that fear went away. And then when my children expressed some kind of fear, I now ask them, what do you think that fear is trying to tell you? Now their response is to do it. So I'm no longer afraid of it anymore.
What? Good for them. For little kids to have that wisdom, damn, little warrior.
Well, I mean, it makes perfect sense because fear is a trigger. Fear is an indication of something. Fear is simply just a message. We can interpret it different ways. We can interpret it, okay, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to let it pass because it's going to pass. Sometimes it doesn't pass. Sometimes it just grows and gets bigger, 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 and heavier, right? Anything that gets bigger becomes heavier. And then I realized that fear was just a message telling me to go and do it. To go and do it so that way it is no longer there, because it will be replaced with another fear. Mm-hmm. That's what life is about. In my opinion, in my experience, life is about facing life head on. And that means fears as well, because sometimes at a certain point of our life, it's like a switch goes off and we are more sensitive to the feelings. And quite often it's the fear that takes over. So noticing that the fear is just saying, this is what I want you to do now. This is what you need to focus on. This is what you need to do. So that way I can give you a new thing to work on.
And I have so many tools for moving through that fear, like personal tools. And I just was thinking now would be a great time to share them. And again, it might not be like what works for me might not work for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Mine work often through like sayings or mantras or lyrics because my clair audience is one of my strongest clair gifts, and that's how things become spells for me, like spells that I cast on myself and for the collective. So when it comes to fear and moving through fear, some of the spells that I cast on myself are, I think like, well, what does it mean to be a warrior? And to me, one of the concepts that comprises being a warrior to me is feeling the fear and doing it anyway. So that became a mantra: feel the fear and do it anyway. And then another one is from a Nako song, Make a Change, and he sings, because I know I didn't come to make it out alive. And that's another one that became like, I internalized that at my soul's depths. Like that became so much a part of breaking through my resistance, and just like taking a leap of faith after a leap of faith without knowing what was on the other side. Is just what, I'm gonna make it out alive. We're all gonna die. So if this kills me, it kills me. Chances are it's not, because all it is expressing myself.
Yeah.
But it kills me. And so I use that, and it comes out alive. And then if I just need a rally cry, pump myself up to go through whatever it is I'm resisting, I'll just give myself a hoka hey. I'll just say hoka hey out loud and then move forward. Just like a pump up rally cry. And because that also to me symbolizes all those concepts of feeling the fear and doing it anyway, and knowing that I didn't come to make it out alive, knowing death is inevitable anyway. So whatever it is that I've been training for in my warrior training, when it comes time to actually take all that training and move forward, do whatever it is I've been fearing, whether it's coming on live, doing a Facebook Live, or posting something I wrote and don't know how the matrix will respond or react. Challenging the status quo, really living my life as like I am a walking, talking challenge to the status quo. Oh, as my shirt says, a spiritual woman is the greatest threat to the status quo.
Yeah, perfect.
So like that's who I am. I'm just a threat to the status quo, and that's scary. That is, so I take all my training, and every time I'm about to challenge the status quo through my expression, the fear comes up. I'm like, oh, this is gonna piss people off, or people are gonna think I'm crazy, or I'm gonna get called, like they're gonna call me brain damage again, or whatever. Like all the things from the past that made it scary to be me will come up, and then I'll just be like, hoka hey motherfuckers, and go forward. And then every time I'm like, wait, I'm breathing, okay, I'm alive, I did it. I did it.
Nothing happened, right? So
I'm still here.
Yeah. So you use basically the power of words to get you to push through that fear.
Exactly.
What I do is I use the power of words, but because it's like the words are not enough for me, because I need something to push that energy out to the side. So I take a physical action, whether it is dancing or doing
Mm.
jumping jacks, or sometimes honestly just get down and do a few push-ups, like
Mm.
pumping my chest, because that way it shifts the energy completely for me. And then also, especially like for push-ups, and not the girly kind on the knees, the man kind, okay? The manly push-ups. So I will do those, and I don't need to do too many of them, but just to feel that burn, right? And it feels like
Yeah.
a release. And then I go and I do what it is that I was fearful of doing, right? It's like
Mm.
changing your physiology.
You know, I love that because my plank routine,
Hmm.
I realized gave me the sacred masculine energy that I had been missing, like balance my solar plexus so that I could create that safe foundation for myself. Because
Hmm.
the that desire to express my intuitions coming from a feminine place has always been there. It's that connection to the spirit realm, but without a sacred masculine container to hold me and keep me safe, I was never gonna do it. I was never gonna express it. And then I realized at one point that it was my plank routine, like building up strength and like feeling my own strength as a being on earth. Like we do occupy these bodies. They are
Hmm.
our homes, and we do deserve to feel safe in our homes. And so that plank routine over time started giving me that sacred masculine safety. That's like, yeah, girl, go do whatever you gotta do. Go for yourself out in the world. So I
Hmm.
appreciate that resonates with me for sure. And it's
Yeah.
also when I do a plank, it's so purifying. Like it purifies my brain, like my mental, like kind of just like brings me so present in the now. And that when I come out of it, I oh yeah, I talked with you about this when you helped me to get back when you were coaching me because had fallen out of my plank routine. Everything was off. Like my flow was off. My insecurities were coming back. My self doubt was coming back. And when you were coaching me, I got to the root of why I'm motivated by doing a plank almost daily, and it's that purification process. Like that
Hmm.
word, like purified, is like keeps coming up, but this also brings up that sacred masculine energy that my solar plexus
Hmm.
holds me, it keeps me safe, keeps me connected to my body.
Yeah. Yeah. And and for some reason, it's like I almost like felt like bringing heart close to and parallel to the earth, and that's what allows us to feel that connection. When you talk about the planks and I talk about push-ups, it's the same position, right? It's heart parallel to the earth, and it connects us. And that's why, like in yoga, a lot of emotions are quite often released when a person is in a downward facing dog, because the heart is so close to the earth, to the soil, to the ground, and this is where everything just comes out, right? And that way the tears go up your head instead of down your face. Hmm.
Just had to tilt my head to imagine that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're just like picturing the tears rolling down this way into the hair and feeling it. It's just sweat, guys. It's just sweat. You can't tell.
Now I just want to go cry again on my on my yoga mat, my daily cry.
You know what? If that's what needs to happen to release the
Mhm.
block or the emotion or whatever is going on, then do it.
Mhm.
And don't judge yourself afterwards.
It's just energy. It's just moving energy. It's just allowing emotions to flow. And the more we practice expanding, contracting, the more potent our time in the expansion is, the more we can access in that expansion and return to it more frequently instead of just staying in the contracted place because we think that it's weak to show emotion, or it's weak to want to talk about how we feel. No, like the more we get it out, the more, because like we as a species have not evolved along with the complexity that we're facing in terms of technology and the way that we have shifted planet Earth since the Industrial Revolution. As a species, we haven't been keeping up. So,
because we've been focusing externally. Instead of focusing internally, we've been focusing externally. And when you were talking about releasing the tears from the eyes, honestly, the thought of, well, we have to pee anyways, right? We're not ashamed to talk about us peeing. So this is just peeing out of our eyes. Yana puts humor and stuff.
You're going to go somewhere completely different with that. There it is. That's why I love you. Peeing, pooping.
Talking about real stuff, and
there's this line.
No, go on. You were saying that there's a line.
There's this line that the internet breaking up. Can you hear me? Is this
I can hear you. I had the same message. It says internet is unstable.
Okay. Same. Okay.
It'll fix itself.
Yeah, like another. Huh?
I said it will fix itself.
Yeah. So it's another. Oh, and then we've been talking for a while, so we might want to think about how we want to.
Yeah, I was just looking at the phone, like, wow, we can talk. Gift of gab. We don't have it. Use it.
I mean, I've been quiet for so long. It was time.
Yeah.
All of my inner world was exposed to the outer world.
Yeah. Well, we were just talking, I think, last time that we each went into our own self-isolation times, right? And it lasts for a while. Like for me, it lasted for 3 years.
Yeah.
Pretty much, right? Even though I was still kind of like speaking a little bit here and there. By speaking, I mean like videos and doing my posts. But I mean, anyone that knows me, I can talk for days. But the world is not ready for it. I don't know if the world will ever be ready for me to constantly be talking and talking and talking. But this,
I was always quiet, like so quiet. And it wasn't until I started this kind of work that I thought that I was worthy of taking up any vocal space.
But you know what? Honestly, now that I think back, I was the same. I was quiet. I was just always outside doing and experiencing and living. And I wasn't really very talkative and expressing myself because I was never really given the time to be heard. Yeah. So when I would speak, it would always be like really, really, really fast or not speak anything at all. And then when I started
out
right, exactly.
Like interest or like
word vomit.
Yeah.
No, sweetie, wait.
I'm almost done. Can I say something really quick on the?
Sure, you can say something really quick on my paper.
Yeah.
There. And then that wasn't until, like you said, until I started working on myself and learning about this type of stuff and learning about motivation and inspiration and energy levels and humans and the mind and literally everything that we are. That's when I started speaking, because now all of a sudden everything that I was being up until that point made sense.
Yes.
And words to explain it.
Yes, exactly. It's the union of knowledge and feeling.
Yeah, up until that point, I was just
Yes.
right, just feeling and feeling, and not being able to explain or express it with words to anyone else, and try to help people to understand what you're saying
Mhm.
until we pick up the language. And
Yeah.
that journey was needed to get to that
Okay,
point.
one sec.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mhm. Yeah. This one is writing me a note because she wants something, usually asking questions, right? Practicing her skill of writing. And yeah,
All
yeah.
right. What do you reckon? Should we wrap it up?
No.
I feel I got a new account. Titty
TT.
got a new account. No, I'm not getting your Roblox. Just because you got a new account on Roblox. Nilachka, we're almost done. We're just gonna wrap it up and we can have a conversation after. Okay?
Conversation, which is like.
Which is gonna be a hard no. So it's not gonna be a conversation. Okay, go. Daddy's calling you. I'll be down in a couple of minutes. Yeah. They always want something, right? Always want something. We all do, no matter how old we are. We all always want something.
I love the approach. It's so relatable. Like, I remember when we used to write my parents' notes and letters when we wanted something instead of just presenting our case out loud and being told no immediately. Write it down. They'll consider it.
Well, she knows also she doesn't, she can't, or she shouldn't be disturbing me when I'm in my sessions. But, she can only be patient for so long.
Of course.
And eventually she needs to come and speak something. I'm like, okay, well, write it down here. And it's going to be forever in my notebook because I like to keep these journals for later so I can always write the date on there and know exactly when she wrote that.
Yeah.
So how would you like to wrap up today with a stretch and a yawn?
Yeah, I'm stretching around. It's a long time to sit in front of the computer.
I know. That's why I stretch my legs out. I have my weighted blanket on me, like 15 pounds of the blanket on me. It's so nice. Because the cat is now over there.
Mm-hmm.
See, he moved to a different place. Oh, now the dog is here.
Oh, so curled up.
Yeah, and now the dog is she's like,
I got all the animals. All right, well, should we wrap it up with what if we wrap it up with an assignment or something for anybody who's made it this far?
I think that would be an interesting test.
Maybe I was thinking maybe like a money story assignment, and that I did when I read Jen Sincero's "You Are a Badass at Making Money."
Mm-hmm.
I didn't finish the whole book. I actually gave it to someone before I finished it, but I do remember one of the assignments had me come up with the list of all the wonderful things money provides, and I can't remember if this was one of the assignments or one of the or something like I adapted my own version, but I remember coming up with a list of all the ways money could help me be more of myself, just like that like breathing room, removing that burden of scarcity.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. It was kind of like an assignment with a list of things, but I think it was more written as she asked to write it as a story.
Okay.
In the present, I am rich or something like that. Maybe I'm just mixing a whole bunch of other things that I have listened and read.
Yeah, because I know we had an IPEC webinar that was about the money story. I did a daily Om money story lesson, and then there's also the Your Path to Making Money. But those kinds of things are effective, and like doing the like rewriting the money story. So I think the assignment for the tribe, like, let's rewrite the collective money story and eliminate that duality of wherever we came up with the stories that either like money's root of all evil or rich people are evil. If we're telling money you're evil, the money's not going to flow to us, which doesn't serve the collective, because better in our hands, better in the hands of people who care so much about other people,
Yeah.
and in the hands of people who have been groomed their whole lives to control and hoard the money.
Well, I was just gonna say and kind of like ask at the same time, those evil billionaires, do they see themselves and their money as evil, or what is their money story?
No, exactly. Like they're probably just trying to, like, from a young age, make their parents happy, like win their parents' approval.
Yeah.
So, or like keep their, or it could have come from a place of scarcity, thinking they need to keep their family safe. We don't know, like I think that's a great point too. Learning our own money stories helps us to have compassion for everybody else's money stories, understanding they have their own money stories.
Yeah.
It's not much, because it's not money. It's the mind.
Yeah. And
Money,
rewrite.
there's a root cause. Money, the way we use money is the symptom of the root cause.
Yeah.
So
I guess that would definitely be a great assignment. Kind of list the new money story
money story.
or write our new money story, or a list, however everyone likes to write things, right? The new money story that you would much rather have. And
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, and then share it in the comments down below, right? Whether if you write on a piece of paper, take a picture of that piece of paper and post that, or if you like to write as a comment, then write it as a comment. However you want to share it, right? And if, let's say, you wrote your money story on a piece of paper and you don't feel entirely comfortable with sharing it, take a picture from afar.
Yeah.
So it's blurry, but I mean, you can write on the very top of the big letters, my new money story. And that's all that will be seen. Everything else will be very small. But the reason why I wouldn't encourage that is because there's a reason why you're trying to hide it, and it's fear-based. And as we talked about earlier, based on fear, tiny little baby step at a time. So do it, and you will see that nobody is going to judge you. And even better, I can pretty much guarantee you, people will look at your money story and say, oh, that's what I forgot to add to mine.
And or exactly.
Yeah.
And we could all, like, you could also go back, listen to where we talk about the mindset of money, and see where your money story is at each level of energy. Like, see what your level 1 money story is, see what your level 2 money story is, and go all the way up to level 6 and 7.
Yeah.
Where, to be shared by all, it's just energy, and feel it. Like, feel what feels most empowering, and what gives you the greatest sense of value and self-worth, keeping in mind that we are all creators and creators of our own realities, and we are the humans. Like, we are the most valuable resource. We are each other. Like, all we need is each other, really. So how, and I think this is a great topic, and we could actually pick this up again next chat, because we are getting these stimulus packages as a result of what's occurring. So with these stimulus packages, like, I had a dream. I woke up from a dream this morning where I saw this, like, sacred geometrical pattern of the stimulus package, and how it, like, this, like, ripple effect, like the one in America. Like, I saw that Canada's stimulus package is rolling out. I think I just saw on a Facebook post about it. But so this is a time to really think deeply about what we're going to do now with this stimulus package. Like it's called stimulus. I think of regenerating and circulation. And so now we have this chance. So in this dream that I woke up from, I saw everybody spending $5 on their friends' businesses. And it was incredible. Like I just saw this energy and this like sacred geometrical formations of energy expanding and unifying the people. And so I woke up from that dream, and first I was down, and I was still missing. There's always like some key elements that I'm missing from the dream. But I thought that, wow, this is like this stimulus package is going to change. If we can get if we can mitigate those destructive catabolic money stories and increase the anabolic money stories, then this is such a massive opportunity for us. Who's how to recirculate the wealth of the world, the global wealth. There's a lot of it, and there's plenty of pie, and we get to choose how that pie is circulated.
Yeah, like honestly, if one of the goals I feel is to get rid of cash, to get rid of physical money, which basically means that all the money will be digital. Now, when it's digital, how easy is it to add an extra zero to the number, or 2 zeros, or 3 zeros, or 4 zeros, or 5 or 6, or however many zeros the person can add to their first number that's on there, right? And if the government has access to the digital numbers, which they do, they can add a few zeros to the digital number, because I mean, they're the ones that creating those digital numbers. It's not created by anything else. They're the ones creating it. So, I mean, those billions are coming out of somewhere. And I mean, all our tax money is all spent. So now these billions are coming out as relief packages in different forms, different names to it, to everyone. That's because they realized, dudes, we can add a couple of more zeros. Nobody's gonna care. So now they need to go into everyone's bank account and physically change the number and add just 2 more zeros to it. Right?
And that's something like, that's awesome imagery to just like start picturing your bank account growing.
Yeah, however many zeros you want after that digit, after the number that you have, just add a couple of zeros to it. That's it. It's all digital. It's all an illusion.
It is all an illusion.
Digital illusion.
It's like the greatest illusion, like this money illusion. So this is what we're doing. We're taking ownership. We're taking ownership of our money story. We're reconciling. I know it's so hard. It took me a while to change the story.
Oh yeah, me too.
And a lot of practice. This is the assignment, and I'm still working on it, because it's still so much based in my sense of self-worth and believing that what I am doing is as valuable. Like deep down, I know how valuable it is, but I've been waiting for the outside world to see it, and that has affected my money story.
Yeah.
Anytime like someone is thinking about working with me, and I'll have different frequencies, different moments of being like, yes, like they need this medicine. And when I'm making about them, like I can see I can see the value that I will bring to their life. But then when I think about money, and I'm like, nobody's gonna pay me that, and then I experience the wobble, and it shows up in real life as the person deciding not to work with me because they can't afford it. So I'm still working on that. So I'm also going to be doing the money story assignment, and we can all do it together and start circulating that wealth. We know how to spend it. We're going to spend it on our friends.
Yeah.
We're going to keep it in the family. We're not going to go spend it at big corporations. So we can trust ourselves. And again, the money is just energy. So if it hears us doing the work, if it feels us doing the work, if it's going to say, oh, the humans trust me, so I'm going to go to them.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't want to be supported by low energy people.
Yeah.
It doesn't want to be there.
It makes me want to go look at my bank account and see if a couple of zeros just appeared magically on their own. You never know. You never know. Come on, zeros. Many, many, many zeros after the digits that are already there. Not zero out, right? Or zero in or zero out. Not zero out, zero in. I guess is that how it would be?
I don't know. It depends what out and in mean. I don't know what they mean.
I don't know. I just got confused of which way it would be, like zero in or zero out. Yeah, zero in would be like when you zero in and there's like nothing. Or zero out.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like, I see. Yeah. Yeah. So let's get to it. Let's let that money. Let's spend it on our friends and change the world. Done.
Yeah, support our friends and their businesses, whatever the business is, right? Find the value in that business for yourself and invest in your friends and your family.
Yeah.
Right. Especially now that everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people are working from home and starting new businesses.
Yes, exactly.
Or the business that they already had, they're taking it into the digital world because they sometimes might not have a choice. So support those friends, those family members that have that.
So I think that's a perfect place to wrap it up. That level 5 energy, your favorite.
Right.
Mindset with money, investment, opportunity.
Yeah.
There's going to be a whole lot of opportunities. So,
Yeah.
open your heart to truly believing in your homies and your family members. See their vision, see from their point of view, and
Yeah, the only thing I would add is thinking of like when we were talking about level 3 charity, right? When you go and you give money to someone, but your intention behind it is level 4. When you go and you give money to charity, right? And your intention behind it is, I'm gonna get it back. I'm gonna get more back. Like the intention behind it is more important.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
Give without any expectation, give without any attachment, give because you know whatever product you're going to get, that alone is worth more than what you have paid for.
Right. Give because you believe in the vision.
Yes, there you go. Perfect.
All right.
Awesome.
We're going to have brand new money stories next time we all meet.
This is the longest one ever, but I think it's the one with a lot of glitter sprinkled all over.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Peace.
Bye. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.